Although I have tried to drink this a few times on air, I guess I have my coffee and I have water and I have a candle. It kind of keeps me, the candle signify, just for me, it's like, slow down. You get excited. You get passionate about what you're doing. Just be chill. Okay. And believe it or not, that's made a big difference to me, having that on my desk in meetings. And so, not everybody is going to be excited about the things you're excited about. Um, as you do things in the world, as you build things, as you implement things, as you roll things out, all that stuff. So today we're talking about first principles thinking for innovation and growth, and this is stuff that I've used in my career, but most recently in the last in the last 12 months of reinventing how we introduce products and information, how we go to market, and how we create value for the brands that we support. It's very important to be intentional about all the things that we have as options and what is going to drive the business forward, that's going to make a problem go away or reduce some kind of complexity, or what's going to create revenue or profitability that then can then be reinvested in the business, and things like that. And so we'll focus the conversation today around multifamily and how everything is coming at our industry right now. We are experiencing something that, and it may not be you, it may be the people that are working on your teams that are experiencing some uncertainty around their roles in the organization, AI, all the things around just interest rates being more pressure on debt service coverage ratios in order for these multifamily investments to meet their debt obligations. More and more loans are going into servicing, special servicing, because these ratios with the rising rates, it's being problematic on how do you meet the expectations of these programs that were put in place recently and throughout the last 24 months. So with all of that in place, like, how do you think about decisions in your organization? I chair the Multifamily Innovation Council meeting. We do this every Friday, and then we have our annual summit coming up in December. That's at multifamilyinnovation.com. All year we think about what are the priorities, what are the challenges, what are we doing inside our organization to bring technology into our business, not just because we want to buy things, but so we can reinvent how we work, and reinvent how we get to the yield, not just depending on rent increases and these other things. And so the successful multifamily owner and operator and executive today and where we go in the future is going to be how well can it create profitability inside the company. It's not about just raising the rent or flipping the deal. It's how can you bring profitability and growth and impact and reassure investors that it's safe and that there's a plan and that we can service our expectations around debt, things like that. And so first principles thinking, I'm going to give you a few examples of that. And by the way, there are ways to comment. If you're on Facebook, if you're watching this on Facebook, hello Facebook, LinkedIn, same thing, put the comments in. I believe I should be able to see those comments. If you're watching or you're listening, and just put a note in the comment so I can see that those things are happening. But if not, we'll look at those after. But listen, first principles thinking, how we reshaped our business. A company, I look at, like, what is a company, right? Like, why do we want to think differently? Why do we want to introduce a new product? Why does a company even exist? And so I was doing a keynote at ASU for a group of 200 amazing leaders around universities that are trying to figure out how to make a great impact for the people they serve. And in doing that, what I was explaining was that a company, essentially, from how we've always built companies, relied on three resources, truthfully. And those resources were financial resources, number one. And financial resources today is problematic for many. The resources they've committed to, the game has changed. If they didn't cap rates, they're dealing with some complexities. So you're going to see more management turnarounds and new teams coming in to move through different problems. And so financial resources, access to capital, has always been leverage for a company, right? We know this doing apartment deals. I mean, leverage, that's what it's all about. And so financial resources was the number one, right, resource for organizations. The second one has been physical resources, right? So the buildings, and if you look back at like Blockbuster, that being, more stores and more places was a resource. It was like you could reach more people, you could sell more videos, things like that. And so you've seen that resource get depleted, right? And so resources technically are depleted over time, right? Where we're talking about leverage and getting things to increase the value of what we're doing. So the third one was human resources. So all companies had financial resources, physical resources, and it could be equipment and plants and manufacturing, all these things, but also human resources. And why that's important to know is because that's how it's always been done. And that got us here in business. And there are companies that relied on those three things that are very smart, very successful, and got wiped out because they only focused on those three things, right? Look at how first principles thinking has reshaped how we launch rockets today, right? We used to, very smart rocket scientists, literally smartest people on the planet, launching rockets. Now we're doing it more efficiently, more effectively because of first principles thinking. And I'm going to get into that in a minute, but the reality is that means, like, it doesn't matter how much you know or what degree you have or how smart you are. If you rely on the business of yesterday, you're not going to put your business or your career in a position to set you up for success, right? And so that's what we're here to talk about today. Now, those three resources were what a company was made up of. And what my vision is, as I move into these conversations one-on-one and one-to-many with others and inside these council meetings, is I want everybody to understand that they are a technology company first. I mean, you think about how you collect payments, how you communicate with customers, how you onboard employees, how employees even find you. Every day that you're doing email, you're in front of a screen all day, you're watching this on technology. Most people don't realize that their company is a technology company, right? Thank you, Justin. Appreciate the note. Now I can see, and on LinkedIn, I can see the comment. Appreciate that. So every company is a technology company, and that's the fourth leverage that if you implement and you execute on and you successfully support, then what happens is you're going to have an opportunity to differentiate amongst all those others that are going to do it the way it's always been done, that are going to look at the business with, okay, let's get debt and let's get physical resources, and let's get people, human resources. The three that wiped out some industries and wiped out some operations. And so the fourth is that technology. And I'm going to show you, like, with everything, when I say technology, people could go, oh, wait a minute, I don't know that. And it's not enough anymore for people just to know a job, right? One of our council members said in a meeting, it's like, you can't just be in accounting anymore. You have to know, as an accountant, how data moves from system A to system B now, because payroll needs to know about that. And then, by the way, operations needs to know about that, because the first impression that the employee that joins the company has, if that operations doesn't set up the email signature or the password or get their first paycheck or onboarding, whatever that is, if that is messed up because data and things are not collaborating within applications and departments, then you will probably go about solving a problem that's not even a problem. You're going to say you have a turnover problem. You're going to say you have a recruiting problem. You're going to solve problems that aren't the real problem, right? And so people that have expertise in a discipline, if it's financial or I'm in sales or I'm in marketing, we need to understand how data moves and communicates throughout our organizations, because technology is that leverage that if we can bring this together, we can do some great things. And so if you think about it, a lot of companies will say they have a problem recruiting or a problem with turnover and those types of things. But technology, when successfully implemented on the right architecture, and when data moves freely from system A to system B, and people are aware of things and departments are more collaborated because of this, you can refine that data and do some really awesome things. You can build amazing applications. You can do all these great things. And so what that does is it solves, in many cases, the employee experience issue. People want to do exciting work. They don't want to do copy and paste data and move it here. They don't want to download a report and upload a report. They don't want to do redundant tasks, right? And so when you figure out the technology, you create something that makes it exciting to work for your company, you can unlock human potential in ways that you've never unlocked it before. And you may not actually have a talent recruiting problem. You have a technology problem, right? And so how do you spot things like that? Well, that's what the first principles thinking is all about. And I'm going to give you an example of how to think through this and how I've done it to completely reshape what we're doing and how we're running our business. So what that means is exponentially, things are going to accelerate faster than you've ever seen. Look in the last 6 months. New applications are going to be coming on, new opportunities, new solutions, new careers are going to be formed. And what's happening is it's going to be very hard to understand how to make choices in this environment and how to select the right things and how to support the right things and hire for the people that can run these types of things, right? So what I'm giving you today is a 5-step process that I've borrowed from Elon Musk in how he looks at reshaping industries and getting to more efficient opportunities for customers. And what that means is if you look at 2 of the wealthiest people on the planet, let's just pick on Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. And regardless of how they are as humans and expertise and all that stuff, they have enough capital in the world to just be like, we're out, we're good, like we did it. But they're not. Elon is focused on increasing the value of his products, and he looks at the automobile or the vehicle as not just, it's probably hardware to them, right? It's a technology company and really a data company. And he can update that product in ways that other businesses can't because of the way that he's thinking through the supply chain, the way that he's thinking through the customer model, all of that stuff. And you saw what SpaceX did with launching rockets, right? So we were launching rockets and they wouldn't return back to Earth. And there would be an incredible amount of money, millions and millions of dollars doing that. And so you look at the profitability and the efficiency to be able to do that more efficient. In your business, there's things that we're doing traditionally that if we use first principles, we'll find opportunity, find value, and allow us to meet customer expectations without just, buy a property, put some new things on it, make it look better, and then raise the rent and then flip it to someone else who then does the same thing over and over and over. At some point, you end up with this bubble bursting pattern. So in what Elon has done with launching rockets, which is far more difficult than renting apartments, right, is first principles thinking, right? And so that is, how do you bring the rocket back down if the things that are most expensive end up as waste in our galaxy? How can we not waste that stuff? How can we return it to Earth? If you looked at an airline flight, which most of you have been on, if you took a flight from Phoenix to into the other side of the country, that would be a very expensive ticket if the airplane would only take one trip, right? And so there are things in your business that we're doing like that we've always done, and there's a way to think through that. So I'm going to give that to you. So the 5 stages, and I'll give you the 5 stages quick, and I'm going to explain them as I go through them. So the first one, step 1, is question the requirements. Okay. Number 2 is delete everything that is not necessary. 3 is simplify and optimize. 4 is acceleration, and 5 is automation. Now, our business is in the automation stage right now, but I'm going to tell you the step 4 is acceleration. And you may be thinking there's pressure with this and pressure with this in the organization. We got to get more clients. We have to get our product in the hands of the customer faster. I need to accelerate. I need to rent faster. I need to acquire more deals to meet the overhead so I can get the acquisition fee to support payroll. I got to go, 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 go. You may be focused on acceleration right now because you're panicked and you're in response mode from what's going on. And I'm going to tell you, I did the same thing. I was like, all right, we got to go here. And we're going to go here. We're going to move in this, and we're going to launch this. We're going to do this. And we did, right? And what ends up happening is you start accelerating the things that haven't been questioned. You accelerate the things that are not necessary, right? And you accelerate the things that have not been simplified and optimized. And you've created more problems in your business and probably more expense. And meanwhile, you're in the same spot, right? So first principles thinking, going back to step 1, is really looking at questioning the requirements. All right. And, I'll give you a simple, easy example. We produce events. And so we have also invested in the last 2 years in software that is going to make companies more profitable and bring a lot of things together. And I'm not here to talk about that today, but the reality is, when I started talking to engineers and hiring AI developers and software engineers and thinking through things from a code standpoint, I realized that in real estate, we respect that when we do physical development, the physical buildings, remember? The physical resources. When we go into a land acquisition, we're looking at dirt, we realize that we need an architect. We realize that we need engineers for the landscape so the retaining walls don't add more cost to all these different things in the business. We need contractors. We need electricians. We need disciplines that understand. We need infrastructure to service the thing that we're going to build. We need to have power. We need to have sewer. We need to have water. We need to have access, street lights. We need to improve that so people can park. We realize the investment in that architecture is important when we build apartments. We're developers. In fact, apartment owners and managers are developers. They've been calling themselves developers forever. And they also have code. They have building code. They have architectural codes, right? They have all this. They respect it. They understand that. They have spreadsheets, probably still in Excel, that talk about these things. But the interesting thing here is they understand that that is an investment so that whatever they go vertical with can actually stand forever, or as long as they can. Okay. But when it comes to technology, we don't take that approach. We're just in acceleration mode, which is 4th. They've missed step 1, 2, and 3. They just went right to acceleration. Let's get a new technology. Let's plug it in the ground. Imagine if you were an apartment developer and you went out and you saw a piece of land. You're like, I'm going to build apartments. And immediately you just went to Home Depot and started putting sticks in the ground. How well would that building last in a storm, or would it even stand up? Right? It wouldn't. And you know that because you got the order of things out of whack, right? But when we are implementing technology in our business, we've done this, right? It's the difference between building like Jenga. If you've ever remembered Jenga, like everybody that does something, it's like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? This new API, what's it going to break? Bam, let me pull that out, right? We're building Legos where things are solid, built just like we build real apartments. And it's really the real estate companies that are the tech companies. Right now, we think it's the point solutions, right? They're not necessarily, they're going to support these operators and they bring technology into the business, but ultimately it's the real estate company that needs them to see themselves as a platform and as a real estate company because customers expect this experience. But first principles thinking with questioning the requirements allowed me to think like, okay, if we've got this technology and we have to introduce it, how would that work? So what did I do? I call people that I know that have had 25 years really good doing this. Hey, I want to introduce this technology. How would we go about doing it? What did I do? I looked at, we need to sponsor an event. We need to do a trade show. We need to hire a bunch of salespeople. And what I learned is like when you question the requirements, you ask the question, instead of just going right to acceleration and doing. Great experts, people that have gotten great success, NASA, auto industry, even successful people in multifamily will tell you to do what they've always done to do the thing. And so what I'm saying to you is we questioned the requirements. So we start asking the question, what exactly is required to move somebody from a stranger to a customer? And you start asking, well, what does that make up? First principles thinking basically is a thinking process like physics, right? So you're breaking things down to their fundamental truths. So they're basic fundamental elements. So what does it mean to have a customer? What is required? Well, they need to understand your product. They need to know what it will do to make their business better. They will need to know what it will be like after they buy the product. They will need to know how to use the product. They will need to know that when they buy the product, that you're going to be there 8 months later. They need to know that perhaps some may need to know like who else has used it. So you start asking those questions, and instead of just going to acceleration mode, we started with questioning the requirements. Instead of just saying, let's hire, let's go sell, let's exhibit, let's put up a booth, let's get a meeting, let's get a demo, right? Nobody wants those things. They want their problem solved. So when we started questioning the requirements, we're like, well, what does it take to accomplish those things? We can do that with a podcast. We can do that like I am with you. We can transfer knowledge that essentially a salesperson does, which is essentially creating trust and credibility. We can do that at scale, right? We can create our own event. By the way, we've done that. We did all of those things. Okay. And so the reality is we questioned the requirements, and I have evidence in our business that worked. It is not the type of thinking that you can do all the time. Bernadette, thank you for your comments. I'll get to those in just a minute. I just want to finish this point, but the type of thinking like this is not for everybody in the organization. It's really for the leaders that are thinking about protecting their capital, protecting their teams, excited about the future. And you have to be intentional about this, because if you thought through this on every decision, we'd be dehydrated in our thinking. It takes a lot out of us. And our brain has seen this in the past. So we've done things where we look in like analogies, or our teams will need to see things like, I've told you this before, like self-guided tours is because we used to tour with people. And so it's like, well, what is, I don't understand this. What do you mean? Like, how do you do the tour? It's a self-guided tour. Eventually it'll just be, I rented an apartment. We saw this with horseless carriage. There was a time when it was just horses pulled these carriages. There was no cars, right? And then all of a sudden you pull out the horse, and like, well, what is that? It's like, well, it's like a horseless carriage. And you know, cordless phone. We saw that with motion pictures. We saw that with self-driving cars. We're experiencing that now. So we're in this transformational period right now where people are experiencing this. They need to be on an analog basis, like helping them understand, like, it's like this, but just, it's a self-guided tour when you lease the apartment. That just means the customer can do it all themselves the way they prefer. But eventually it'll just be like automobile. Like, we won't be saying it's a horseless carriage anymore, right? We're in, and we're leading through those types of experience. So your people will need to move through decisions like in that way, where it's explained more simple. But if you're designing a business or turning around a business or making, you want to differentiate from all the other things that are going out there, then this first principles thinking can reshape everything that you're doing. So then that's step one, question the requirements. So we questioned all those requirements, and we demonstrated that we can get millions of units of clients all across the country without doing all of those things. And so the second thing is delete. Second thing is delete. And delete is fascinating because you can test your assumptions. And what I mean by delete is it's getting rid of everything that is not necessary, absolutely not necessary. This is going to unlock things in your business that will just bring clarity. And, like this candle is like just piece. You're doing things right now that are probably not necessary, right? In our innovation council meeting, we even talked about think about this, question the requirements, and then thinking about deleting something that's not necessary. What does it mean to rent an apartment? What does it really need? Does it need an application, right? Someone has to have income to support that. Does it need a lease anymore? How do we qualify people? We have requirements. We've always said 3 times the rent and this credit score, or whatever those requirements are. Question that. What can be deleted there? We had a council member talk about that they went to no income requirements. I mean, think about this. You're renting apartments right now, requiring all these things. Then they move in. What do you really do after you're just hoping that they just keep paying, right? What are you going to do if they change their job and their income goes completely down? What are you going to do about it? They're in a lease. Is it even necessary? And I'm sure with lenders, and there's a lot of things that restrict us from doing these, compliance and how we structure loans and the requirements from lenders. And I get it, but this is a time for leadership. But that's an example of questioning the requirements and deleting something that's not even necessary. Let's see. I'm going to just go to Bernadette's question here, or statement here on I'm a researcher interested in speaking with multifamily PMC industry leaders on folks to gain insights, what current pain points have, what are your current needs? DM me. Great. Perfect. I would suggest first do things that I'm doing, right? So I brought the audience, you make a comment. I would say do your live video and do a video every day. If you want people to know about how you can help them, make a post every day about not you, but hey, here's what I'm thinking about. The people you want to spend time with, you want to draw them in, go say those things. I just had breakfast with the CEO. This is why they hired me. At first they were thinking they were going to do this. After the meeting, we're going to now do this. If you want something like that, come help me. Nobody cares about our products or information. They want their problems to go away, or they want a bigger and better future. So that's one thing that I would do, is just do what I'm doing right here, is demonstrate value in advance. And then people that want help with the things that you know how to make happen, they will reach out to you. And they're not going to reach out to you in the normal ways. It'll be in 4 months from now. It'll be a message on some other platform. You'll send an email and they'll be like, oh, I got to call that person, whatever that is. But do the work, but don't do the work to convert or to make a sale. Do the work to transfer understanding. You're not trying to transfer what you do and what you can do for them. You're trying to transfer how understanding. That's what a salesperson does over a coffee meeting, a follow-up meeting with the board, a pitch deck meeting, all that stuff. It happens in consistent approach. So you have to be consistent with that. So first is, again, question the requirements. Number 2 is delete everything that is entirely not necessary. So what did we delete, right? Well, we deleted the exhibiting part. We deleted the opportunity to even hire salespeople, right? We knew that we could run traffic to a page where we talked about the problem our clients wanted to solve. And if we knew that they wanted to solve that problem and our tool helped them with that, we could sell that. And we're selling, in some cases, much more boring products than what you're selling. So number 2 is delete everything that's not necessary. Number 3 is simplify. Now, simplify is just breaking things down so that it can be replicated, right? But also just keeping it real simple. We know this, and optimization. I don't need to go into how to do that. There's a lot of ways to do that. But once you first are simplifying the things that are only necessary, right? It's not just simplifying, because right now you may be simplifying things that are not been questioned. So you're just simplifying the 50-page application, right? You may be simplifying the 300-page lease or whatever, right? So we first got to question requirements. Then we got to delete everything that's not exactly or entirely necessary. And then we simplify. And now we're only simplifying the things that move the needle in our business, right? And then we get to step 4, which is acceleration. And now at this stage, you're putting the fuel behind it, right? You're going faster, you're turning up the heat. And now from what Elon says, he's like, only do step 4 when you've done 1 through 3. If you start with acceleration, as I mentioned before, you're accelerating things that are unnecessary, that haven't been simplified and haven't been questioned, and you potentially could be creating more problems in your business. So number 4 is acceleration, but only do that after you've questioned requirements, after you've deleted everything that's not necessary, and then after you've simplified, and then you accelerate. And that's really how you get scale. Number 5 is automate. Now, automate is what the business that we're in now, where this is the leverage, right? Remember that 4th leverage when I started here was the first one was financial resources, physical resources, human resources. And then when you add that we're all a technology company and you introduce automation, now you have leverage. And that leverage makes that business more viable, right? So it makes you do things and attract the type of talent that can come in and create human touch points in your organization that can make some magic happen. What the automation piece is so important because it's going to improve the employee experience from the inside out of these organizations. Again, redundant work, repetitive work, work that requires you to do things that can be automated is not fun and not interesting. You're going to lose your audience, right? You're going to lose your market. And you're going to you're spending far more money. You're spending more money trying to solve a problem of talent, recruitment, and turnover, which if you were more automated, people may enjoy working there in different ways, right? And so it's very important to think through that. So that automation creates an employee experience where your customers can obviously engage in a way that's more modern, but also gets your employees to enjoy their work. And you'll open up new jobs inside the organization. So start thinking about, like, when you're doing your work, just start watching what happens. I have to send an email, then I have to save it, then I have to store it somewhere, and then I have to share it, and then I have to talk about it, and then I have to read it, and then I have to, schedule a meeting with someone else, and then I have to share it with them about what I think about the thing. And so start noticing in your organization where you're doing work where technology does not exist, right? Where do I have to do something repetitively over and over that if I did this thing, I would have my time back? And if I had my time back, what else could I do with that time that would drive either more revenue for their organization or more profitability, right? Or a better experience that makes you a different brand than anything that you've ever done, right? So anyway, those are the 5 stages. Just to recap, first principles thinking for innovation and growth. We're talking with stage 1, question the requirements, right? This is the physics thinking, looking at how do I think like a physicist, or in physical engineering, where we look at the particles, we look at what's made up of the thing, what does it take to build this, where do we get the parts. In apartment construction, this is why you will never see change happen with rent regulation the way that we're doing it now. Products and information, facts and information are never enough until there's an emotional connection for people to impact change. I don't care how many letters you make to Congress. I don't care how many meetings you have with 3 or 4 people. All of our apartment owners and managers have access to the customer. So if we want change around a big problem, this is where you could take first principles thinking for rent control and these types of things. You could take first principles thinking and solve that problem. Okay. And how would you do that? You would look at, like, how many of you have been to a city council meeting recently and voted yes for an apartment? Although everybody's writing checks to fund organizations to write letters to people that aren't even renting apartments. So how many of your residents are going to these meetings and saying, you know what, this has been really awesome living here. And, because of that, I met a new friend and now we're going to Italy together. And if I didn't have that, my life would be very different. Apartments are awesome. How many people with the great marketers that we have out there in the apartment industry are marketing to their residents to support more apartments. And with more apartments, we have more yeses. And with more yeses, we have more supply. And if we have more supply, rent stability is there. And the investors don't care about the big bump increases. They want stability and predictability over time, over generations with the people I'm talking to. They're not looking for the big pops. It's the syndicators that want to make the big pops in and out. And that's what we talk about in Hollywood and children's books and Hallmark movies. We've created that brand. So every marketer out there has the ability to affect change, but it's not going to go through writing a letter or talking to someone in Congress. It's going to talk to the public on TikTok, on Instagram, all over the world around how awesome you think about when you build this apartment, how much you care about it, how much architectural meanings you're putting in. I'm putting the craft in there. This is special. We're thinking about how to build the doors instead of buy the doors so we can charge the right prices. Like, it's going to require different thinking. It's not the traditional thinking. The automotive industry would not have had the direct-to-sale model, the Carvana model, the electric vehicles at all if it were up to them. The industry insiders never, like, I don't want to say never, industry insiders very rarely impact and re-envision an industry. So the source of where you get your productivity and your information, you've got to question the requirements. Right? There's a book to read called Change or Die, and it talks about even when people are faced with death, they will not change. Heart attacks, they will not change their behavior. So just informing people like, hey, if you eat this and you eat this and you eat this, you're going to die. They're like, okay. And then they don't do that. Even when death is on the line, they don't affect change. So telling someone that it's a supply issue or it's this issue or it's that issue is not going to affect change. We need real leadership. And every one of these owners and operators of each company needs to have self-reliance to have connection with their audience like I'm making with you to do that. With every customer, they need to know how much you care about their purchasing power. They need to know how much you care about their ability to meet their obligations. They need to know how much you care about the experience when you move into that apartment. They need to know about all those things. But we're in acceleration mode, just not even thinking about, we're trying to solve the wrong problems that are creating the problems we have. So think differently about these things. Look, I'm riffing on a lot of these things, but listen, I will tell you, think about those first principles things, and it will absolutely, just the next decision you make, question the requirements. And then you think about, like, is what we have here, is it necessary? Right? And then how can we simplify? And then after that, how do we accelerate? And then once we've accelerated, how do we automate so the people that we want to inspire with us can enjoy our organizations? Have any sponsors here can handle 40 units? Yeah. Christina, I don't know what if that question is for me or just the audience that's going to view this, but listen, that was fun. I hope you enjoyed that. If you're watching this on the replay, multifamilyinnovation.com, we're bringing in some incredible leaders. I've got a gentleman that ran Microsoft Talent globally, thousands of employees, how to rethink the enterprise ecosystem business, how to bring technology in, how to engage people, how to get behavioral change around culture. And it's all the stuff that you need to know to approach the uncertainties and the challenges that are up against our industry right now. There's a time to just ignore the crap, ignore the headlines, get focused, get ready to get to work and get the things moving that make a difference in the financial business of the apartments. It's no longer can we have unnecessary things. We have to be fundamental. We have to be about the people. We got to bring the right people together. We got to get them engaged to collaborate and make an impact for the customer. And when we do that, we have a company which is nothing more than a collection of people. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. If you're watching this on replay and you have a comment or question, message me, put in the comments. Be happy to connect. We hope to see you at the Multifamily Innovation Summit. So we'll talk to you guys.